Peace, everybody. It's Miss Marianna. And for those of you who are tuning into Refreshing Convos who are new to this, I welcome you. I invite you in. Hit the subscribe button because I want you to come back for more. And for those who are true to this, welcome back. We have an amazing person here today, but I want to remind you what Refreshing Convos is about. For those of you, you know that everybody and their mama, like I say, got a podcast now, right? But one thing that is so amazing about that is this non-traditional form of healing that's coming about, right? That you don't always have to go into a clinical space or environment. You don't always have to go to spaces where there have been a lot of institutional harm being done. Now you can turn on your favorite podcasts and be poured into with the art of storytelling and empowerment through the victory of people's experiences. And I'm jumping in on that thing too. Refreshing Convos started originally during the COVID time, and it was my way of creating something online with Instagram Lives. And we had amazing people on. And I said, you know what? I'm going into 2024 with that thing locked and loaded, and I have amazing people lined up. So Refreshing Convos is focused on community leaders. And that can be a variety of backgrounds. You can be a leader in the form of the arts. You can be a leader in the form of activism and politics, whatever form or facet that shows up in entrepreneurialism. The ideal is to bring leaders on who are constantly in the mode of serving community, operating at their healthy higher good, but also want to do the shadow work necessary to show that, number one, we do not have to be perfect to stand in leadership. But number two, it is our duty to be accountable for our active healing so that it doesn't linger in the shadows and seep and morph into things that can do harm on us and on the community members we serve. And the reason why this is so important for me is because standing in community leadership, I know what it's like to operate in a way where we're always trying to be perfect. And when that begins to fester, we begin to fall apart. And we don't need to lose any more community leaders that are a part of transformation on this planet Earth. And so it pleases me to invite our special guest today, who I have witnessed work in the community in a capacity that impact is just a way of life in terms of the community members that she serves on a consistent level. And I've also had the opportunity to work in partnership in leadership. And one thing that I can say is this woman is a solid individual, whether that's being solid in sharing joy and creating joy for the community, whether that's solid in creating healing opportunities for people to really go and get into the depth of their healing. This individual provides those spaces 24/7. And it is my duty and my allegiance to her heart, her mind, and her soul-led work to bring her here and allow her the opportunity to carve out time to tell her story, to reveal some of her healing, to know and understand that that process also is a grand teacher to the community as well. So I want to thank and greet and welcome you, Dr.Teah.
It ain't nothing for me to, give something to them within my capacity every single month because I know it's going to come back to me 100-fold.
There you go. Wait. So let me just go ahead and bust myself out before I do this. So the reason why I know this beautiful woman is because of your lovely man who is also an activist in the community. And he called me up one day and he was like, I got to get you together, sis. Like, you need to build with this woman, right? She's amazing, whatever. I'm like, all right, cool. Bring her, right? And we've been working ever since. So, we saw each other here and there, sniffed each other out. I'm like, oh, good energy, good juju all around you. And now I have the privilege of working in community with you. So shout outs to Brother Keon for bringing this amazing woman into my life and for being an amazing man and supporting you, because without that connection, I don't think that we would be sitting here, or maybe we would, but it took a little longer for us to find this. How you feeling today?
I'm cool.
Good. Good. You tired? Why are you tired?
Life
Be life. Okay. Well, I get you for an hour to do some decompression.
Thank you.
To do some storytelling, to do some healing for first yourself, and with the spirit of sharing that with community so that they can learn and grow with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. When I think of you, I think immediately of the word joy. And it's because you use the phrase all the time. What's the phrase that you say?
Which one?
It's
Girl, I
rooted
just be talking.
It's rooted in joy. In who do you serve in community, and what is one of the number one things that you want to create for those community members?
Definitely joy.
Yes.
I talk about creating joy on demand or accessing joy on demand.
Yes.
Because we're always going through so much all the time. I mean, just like I said, I'm tired because life be lifing.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the reality of it all.
Yeah.
And we have to remember to center joy,
Yes.
even in those difficult moments,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what gets us through. That's what got our ancestors through. That's how we survive. That's how we, in this moment, are able to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
Remembering and holding on to those moments of joy, because if we don't, life can bring us down.
That's right.
So
Real low too. Real low. So first of all, your name is Dr.Teah. And, people get impressed quickly. So let me ask you this, right? Because I got clowned one time by a sister who's a doctor before, who pulled me to the side one time because I didn't understand the level of importance that I called her doctor, right? So basically, she chin checked me and was like, I worked too hard and too long for you not to call me doctor. And I was like, okay, my bad. I was on the sister vibe with you. So let me just be clear. How do you prefer to be addressed? Is it certain environments, certain people? How we go about that, doctor?
I'm from the streets, so
Okay.
call me Tia.
Yes.
But I appreciate
Yes.
when people acknowledge the work that went into why
Yes.
I am Dr. Teah.
I know that's right.
So I respond to either or.
Yes. Yes.
I'm comfortable in either or. There are moments in certain environments that I might have to remind somebody who I am, where I've been.
Hello.
But yeah, I'm perfectly fine with Tia because that is who I am.
Okay. All right. I just, that was a learning lesson because that person was a little older than me. And, I was in my feelings because I didn't intend wrong. But I think the way you described it is, of course, there's going to be certain environments where not acknowledging you as a doctor can be seen as a diss. Has that happened to you before in certain environments or experiences?
Not yet.
Okay.
And maybe not ever. I don't take it too personally.
Okay. Yeah.
I am who I am. I'm Tia.
Right.
I went to school for 14 years to obtain my degrees.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it takes away to not acknowledge my doctoral degree.
Yes. Yes.
I did a lot of writing and reading and working to get that.
Right.
But I don't think it's necessary for other people to acknowledge my humanity by acknowledging my work ethic.
Yeah.
Like, it's just it is what it is. I'm a doctor. Yeah, I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
But I'm also just sister girl, your
That's
home
right.
girl,
That's
your
right.
friend.
And that's the energy and who I met and who I know. But I do think that it's important for us to define, speak, create for ourselves. And if that means that needs to show up in different spaces and places differently too. Like right now, I have a couple friends right now. They're like, why you call yourself Marianna all of a sudden? And I had to break it down. Like there's been an evolution in my life where I've been called Marianna all my life. But my mom broke it down to me and was like, actually, the vibration that I named you with is Marianna. So roll that R. So I tell people, put a little stank on it. If you really want to honor me, I'm not going to be mad at me mad at you if you call me Marianna.
Yeah.
But if you want to put a little extra stank on it, call me Marianna. So if we want to put a little extra stank on it, we
Call
going to
me
call you
Doctor.
Dr.Teah.
Call me doctor if you're nasty.
Yes. Oh, wait, hold on. Watch out. So let's break down some of this herstory in terms of your education. You're referring to your doctorates.
One doctorate.
Okay,
but
one doctorate.
I have 2 masters.
Okay, talk to us about your educational journey. What led you to it? The amount of time that you spent in it. So when we know what kind of doctor, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, good question. So I'm from Sacramento, South Sacramento
Hey.
in particular, but I did grow up in a lot of different areas in Sac.
Okay.
And most of them were, predominantly Black, low income. So I watched a lot of my brothers and my biological brother as well. But I watched a lot of them, going to prison, in the street, selling drugs, killing each other, conflict. And I just wanted to understand more about that. I wanted to understand why our communities seem so riddled with despair. My mom suffered from addiction. My dad he wanted to be in the picture, but dealing with co-parenting and all of that stuff, it was difficult for him through their divorce. And so once I got in high school, I had a bunch of teachers really encouraging me to look at college, but that didn't seem like a thing for me. Excuse me.
Like financially or?
No, just because my friends and people I was in my, community weren't going to college.
Yeah.
So it seemed like a foreign idea to me.
Did they see something in you in particular that they were saying when they were suggesting that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So when I got to high school, they automatically put me in honors classes because I was in honors in junior high. But for whatever reason, I didn't think honors was cool. I thought that was
like a secret?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
It wasn't a secret. It was just like, why are they putting me in honors classes? Like, that just means I have to work more. I have to.
You're like, this more work.
Yeah, I got to do more work. I'm not that smart. Like, why am I in?
Right.
So I signed myself out of the honors classes. I forged
You demoted yourself.
I forged my dad's signature, honey, and got myself out of the honors
You ain't going to get in trouble now, so you can tell the truth. Let it all out.
No, girl. I can speak my truth. So, two of my teachers on two different occasions came, pulled me out of class, and said, I know what you did. Why did you do that?
Who were these teachers?
One, her name was Miss Rimley.
You won't forget.
I can't remember the other one's name to this day.
What did Miss Rimley say that?
She's a small little white lady, short little white lady, and she said, I know what you did. I know that you signed yourself out.
It sounds like a scary movie. Ain't that a movie? I know what you did last summer, right? And what did you say?
I couldn't say anything because, I knew what I did too.
Right. Okay.
And I just received what she had for me. But I never went back to those honors classes. I just, continued to do what I was doing.
And this is high school?
This is high school.
Okay.
And it was a guidance counselor, Miss Tracy.
Okay.
Miss Tracy.
We don't forget those people. We even forget their names because of the years. We remember the energy of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so they both really just encouraged me, like, you need to be looking at college. You don't need to be.
Did they say why?
They just kept, in a nutshell, they were just saying, like, they saw my potential. Mm-hmm. They knew that I was smart. They saw who I was hanging out with, which weren't the children who were necessarily succeeding.
Right.
Or meeting their potential.
Right.
And so, yeah, that was why they were encouraging me to get on the right track. Like, girl, what you doing?
It's interesting, those folks that see our light even before we do.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about that the other day.
And that's a universal thing. That's not even about race, gender. Our souls, when they're being honored and recognized, we don't forget that.
Right.
I had Miss Alexander, white woman, redhead, hippie, didn't shave her armpits. 8th grade had me read the autobiography of Malcolm X and was teaching me things that opened my mind and had me see myself differently.
Right.
She honored me. So how did that impact you just moving forward? Like somebody recognizing your potential and your intelligence?
It definitely made me look at myself. And it never stopped. There's still, to this day, people who recognize something in me that maybe I recognize in myself, but I'm not ready to unearth.
Peeking at it. Look, I see a little something. Okay.
So it builds my confidence. It builds my self-esteem.
Yeah.
It confirms and affirms for me that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
That sounds
when
good.
I'm supposed to be doing
That's
it.
right.
Because other people see it.
That's right. And so when you start walking in it, so how does this lead? So what school did you graduate from in high school?
Valley.
Valley? Okay.
But I
Heard
went
that
to
was
4 different high schools.
Wait, I went to 3. What was we doing cutting up? I went to Burbank. They was cutting up there. My mom was like, no, we got to get you out of there. I went to Kennedy. The girls wanted to box with me there. But I finally got into McClatchy High School because they had the Black Student Union, and it was really good for me. What was your high school experience?
I was moving a lot.
Okay.
That's why I went to 4 different high schools. Okay. So in sophomore year, my grandfather in North Carolina, he got sick and they thought he was going to pass away. So we moved to North Carolina for a short amount of time because he got better. Thank God he got better. And then we came back.
Nice.
I went to live with my mother, who at the time was struggling with addiction. And so I ended up going to another high school. Then she moved to Stockton. So then I moved to Stockton with her, went to another high school, went to 2 high schools in Stockton. Then I came back and graduated from Valley.
Okay. So I'm thinking of teenage Teah now. Right?
You can't even think of her.
Yeah.
You don't even know what that was looking like.
but it's making me want to inquire because I'm starting to get the emotional data, right? My mom was struggling with addiction. I saw my brothers, dealing with crime, dealing with, death, all these things. And then I'm hearing your teachers recognizing your intelligence, your ability, your potential. But what was going on with teenage T at that time, emotionally and mentally, while you're seeing this world of a lot of trauma and chaos, and I'm assuming pain and suffering, but then you're getting these glimpses of like, hey, there's some greatness in me. What's going on with you mentally and emotionally dealing with these family members?
I was struggling because my brother was in and out of jail. And he was like my rock. So the things happening with my mom, he would be the one to come in and save me, take me to school, give me lunch money, buy me clothes for school. Right. And, the things with my mom were really impactful because we were super close, but all of the addiction and the things that come along with that, it had us butting heads. Yeah. So, oftentimes I would be going to school crying because, she been up all night tripping or whatever the case may be. And so that part was difficult. And then my dad, he wanted to be there, but, grown stuff.
Yeah, grown folks that we don't understand at the time.
That I didn't understand at the time. And it went so far as to one time we were living in a motel, me, my mom, my brother, not the one that was in prison, but I have another older brother. She's not my blood, but we've been rocking since we was 8 years old. Okay. Her mama, and her 2 little brothers. Right. In one motel room. Yeah. And my dad sent the police to come and get me because he's like, this is not okay. Yeah. And I was so mad at him.
Yeah. Well, he's not there, but he also had a feeling of protecting you, like that ain't right either.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. He knew what was up. Yeah. And he was really just trying to save me from the situation. But I was so upset. Like, why would you do that? Right. Why would you put us
This is still my family. Yeah.
So yeah, I was definitely going through a lot.
So what happened? Did you go to CPS?
No, I stayed in the hotel. I had to go with him that night.
Okay.
But I went right back with my mama because I felt like, I was her protection. Yes. I was the only one looking out for her. And it's so interesting. Just yesterday, I was in my closet, but my kids like to play in my closet, so walk in. And I saw this little tube of bubbles. But at the time that I just kind of glimpsed at it, and I had a triggering, like, emotional reaction because the shape of it was the shape of a crack pipe. And I used to always find my mom's crack pipes. And it just for that moment, I was like, what is this? Because I didn't have the full understanding that it was just some bubbles.
Right, because ain't no crack pipe in my closet.
But, for that moment, I'm like, because my mom lives with me now.
Yeah.
And I know she's fine. She's clean. She's sober. She's happy.
But that protective factor went up quick.
That moment just, it messed me up.
How did you come down out of that? Did you breathe through it or?
Yeah, I definitely had to breathe through it. Yeah. And I had to laugh about it.
Yeah. Like,
at the same time,
bubbles,
like, girl, this ain't nothing but no bubbles.
Right. But it just, you know what? It's a beautiful and transparent reality that no matter how healed we are, no matter how removed we are from a situation, we can be in the most healthiest, happiest space in our life. Those social emotional imprints from traumatic experiences do hold a place in the deepest parts of our mind's eye, of our memory.
Yeah.
And luckily you are in a place where you can eventually go through your process. But if that would have happened any other time, that can send some people spiraling downward for not just a couple hours, but weeks, days, years, because it can take you right back to that point.
Yeah.
So here you are, teenage Teah, you're dealing with mom's substance abuse. You're dealing with your, inconsistencies of the rock, your brother in your life, your father in your life. What grade are you at this point at the motel?
10th grade.
10th grade.
It was between 9th and 10th.
So how long does this last with this struggle of family life?
Until I left.
What was
Not
that?
even until I left, like even into my college years.
Really?
Oh yeah.
So what happened? Did you start listening to your teachers and start showing up to honors class? What happened after 10th grade?
I was ready to go, like
Get out.
I was ready to just get out. And I didn't want to go too far, but I had to go.
Yeah.
So after I graduated, I was working at Target.
Target.
Target. And I was dating this guy, and even back then, drama and
We
all the
talking.
stuff. Long story short, I got jumped after work in the parking lot
By who?
by some chicks, somebody that he was dealing with in, situations.
Yes, indeed.
And that was what made me say, I need to go, because I'm either going to end up pregnant,
Yes.
because by that point I had an abortion,
Okay.
or I'm going to end up dead.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to keep fighting these chicks.
Right.
Like, they ain't have no shame. They came up to my job.
Right. Your place of business.
Right. So I'm like, I got to go.
Yeah.
Or else I'm
So that was
that was it.
okay.
So this was after I had already graduated.
Right.
So,
What's your emotional state? When people are going through these kind of environments, either they're shutting down or they're angry or they're confrontational. What is your personality type like in terms of how this is shaping you and how you're communicating or who you are? If I would have met Teah in Target and you would have helped me out in the line, who was I going to meet?
You still would have met me. I've always been very friendly,
Okay.
very kind and compassionate and giving, but I was angry,
Okay.
because I had all this other stuff going
Okay.
on. So I was still the same in terms of that, but I was a little more hood.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Survival mode. Straight up.
Yeah,
Survival.
absolutely.
That'll do that to you. So on the outside, still able to maintain a pleasant demeanor and things like that. How are you suffering on the inside?
I was definitely depressed. I wouldn't have known.
that time.
At that time, I wouldn't have caught it.
So how is depression showing up in teenage T?
I was pulling out my hair.
Okay.
Trichotillomania.
Educate people on.
So it's a disorder in which you pull out your hair, just patches of my hair.
Yeah.
for
And is
no
this
reason.
when you're sleeping? Is this when you're
No,
awake?
I was fully awake and aware.
Okay.
of
And
what
then
I
how
was
long
doing.
did you deal with that?
Years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't even I would have to really sit down and think about it.
Calculate that. Yeah. Yeah.
But I was dropping pills every day.
Okay. There you go.
After I
Get
got
out.
off of work,
Yeah.
I was popping pills. Those were the two main things.
Yeah.
Smoking blacks,
Right.
popping pills,
Right.
and pulling out my hair.
Yeah, yeah. And thank you for being brave enough to be particular, right? Because sometimes, we'll get great people in positions of leadership and activism doing all these wonderful things. And they might refer, right, with this like generalized idea of like, yeah, I struggled. I come from the streets. But it's like, how we deal with that and how that shows up or how it festers and manifests in our self-harm can happen in a range and variety of ways. And there might be a young T out there right now watching this episode and, you're here in all your beauty and glory and shined up, glossed up, wrapped up, colorful, right? And they might not be able to imagine. And that's why I closed my eyes to get you to describe what that inner experience was, because even the girl at Target who's smiling at you and being pleasant because she's required to get that paycheck could be going through something. And those things that you're going through are very particular. Smoking is a killer of us in the community, right? And drugs that can be blended with so many other things like bologna, because you don't know what you're getting, right? Can lead to can gateway to all kind of other things. So what happens between now you're in the 10th grade with the motel situation, and you're starting to realize, like, I'm mad at you, Pops, for trying to help, but I still got this longing to be the protector of who's supposed to be ideally my protector. You're fast forward and you're trying to work, create some livelihood for yourself, have some money to survive with. You're exploring relationships, obviously being active. You go through the trauma of being pregnant at a young age and having to use your decision to terminate. Then you're moving forward. You're acknowledging some of these other issues and addictions that are coming forward. Where are we now? Is this 11th grade or 12th grade?
So, my relationship, I was, when did we start dating? I think we started dating around the time I was in the 10th grade.
Okay.
But, when I started working, it wasn't until after I had graduated. So now we're past graduation.
Okay. So you did graduate?
I did graduate.
Did you have a good graduation experience for that landmark moment, or what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was cool. It was cool.
Good. Is now, upon graduation, is mom still struggling with substance abuse?
Yes, she struggled with that for a long time.
Okay.
I say, we're in 24, so probably until about 2017.
Okay.
16, 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you're working, and then this is when you get jumped. Mm-hmm. And you now fine. So it wasn't having enough of brother in and out of jail. It wasn't mom substance abuse. It wasn't relationship stuff. It was a physically violent situation that finally made you snap and realize, I don't know where I'm going, but I got to get the hell up out of here. Is that the culmination of it all?
Yeah, I'd say that was probably like the final straw that was telling me, okay, this is where your life is leading.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what happens? What does T decide to do? This is young adult T now.
Yeah. So I decided to apply for college.
So wait, where did that just pop up out your brain? Like, the answer is college. Like, how do you get from that to survival mode to I'm gonna go to college?
So I had done everything that I needed to do. Like, I took the SATs and all that stuff. I did all of that already.
Yeah.
Just in preparation because, guidance counselor said do this.
Yeah.
So I had already known, I could get in. I was on the principal's honor roll. Like, I was doing well.
You were a good student.
I was a good student in that respect. But I just didn't see myself going to college. None of my homegirls was going to college. I mean,
what were your peers doing at that time?
We were working.
Okay.
Most of us just went and got jobs.
Okay.
Some of us, a lot of my friends had babies already.
Yeah.
And that was just something I'm like, I don't want to do that
So where do you go to school?
I went to San Jose State University.
So you just like randomly applied and then you get in school and that's a wrap?
And yep, my dad didn't even know.
What do you mean?
I told him one day, like, I got into San Jose State, and he's like,
wait a minute.
So now that means he has to help me.
Right.
Everything.
Sometimes that's what you got to do, though. If you sit around waiting for everybody else to figure out your greatness, you might be sitting up for your whole life.
Yeah, he didn't even know.
So dad hustled up. So is dad stepping up at this time?
Oh, yeah. By that point, I was back with my dad.
Okay. Was he excited for you?
Yes and no. He wanted me to stay home and like go to Sac City or go to Consumers. Be close.
Because you're how old at this time?
By now I'm 19.
19, okay.
Yeah. But he wanted me to stay and, do the 2-year thing before I just went and dove into something else.
And you was like,
I said, nope. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but if you're not going to help me, I'm going.
So how did you get there? What was
He helped.
Okay. So did you get like Pell Grants and certain things? Okay, so you got financial aid.
And I had to be deceitful in that because, when you do all of the FAFSA paperwork, you're supposed to add all your parents' information.
Income and information, yeah.
Well, my dad, not that he made a lot of money, but he made too much money for them to want to pay for my school. So I had to tell them.
Right, look, get it off your chest. They can't do nothing now. You can't take her degrees away now. She's a doctor now.
Yeah, so I had to, write letters that my
Right.
parents weren't active in my life. And
Which is so sad
It is.
that
It's very
we
sad.
have to minimize ourselves. I mean, how many people out there want to pursue higher education and go that route? And you have to minimize yourself or deceive to get help.
yeah.
And, you know, it just speaks volumes about how the system operates and how many people who want to be honest maybe didn't take some valuable opportunities because they didn't want to lie or they were fearful that the system would take the opportunity away. But thank you for being honest about that, because I'm sure you're not the only one that had to bend some corners to be accepted into places that were a part of your destiny.
Yep.
You know. So you get to San Jose State, and what's that experience like?
It was wonderful. I had a
Me
really
about
good experience. So I got there. So I'm 19, a freshman. I have a roommate. My roommate, Geneviève LeBlanc.
Ooh, that sounds
She
something
was
fancy,
from-
right?
She was
Right.
from Quebec.
Wow.
So
you
was
getting
cool.
cultured.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the first person I ever met from, Canada. And
Right. And you a sister from the hood.
sister from the hood. And
What was that like?
it was interesting.
Okay.
She also came from money. I didn't know people
Right.
from money.
Right.
So she would take me out to eat. And
Hey, friend.
I know.
I'm glad I lied on that app.
It was cool.
Yeah.
It was cool. I did have some interesting experiences with friendships there that, could have compromised my enrollment.
Okay. They was wilding.
Oh man, it was a girl that I befriended. I met her. She was crying in the cafeteria.
Oh, it was drama from
She
jump.
was
huh?
crying,
Uh-oh.
and I just stopped and talked because, like I said, I've always been a nice person.
lady. Yeah.
I feel other people.
Yes.
And I befriended her, and she just started doing me dirty. She started doing me
That
dirty.
big old heart of yours.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was mad about that.
Okay.
And I back then was a very different person in terms of like how I responded to things.
I mean,
And I kind of went, I don't want to say I went buck on her, but like I let her have it.
Right.
I told her about herself.
Right.
And it scared her
Uh-oh.
because that's not the me that she knew.
Right.
And so she like filed a complaint.
So
all
you coulda
kinds
got kicked out of
stuff.
school.
I literally could have got kicked out of school.
What was the saving grace?
Because she ended up lying about, yes, I got at her. Yes.
But there was a reason why.
And there was a reason
you
why I
had
got
to
at
get
her.
to getting.
But then she started, making things up to
Oh,
make a case for herself.
Right.
And
To be
so-
more of a victim.
To be more of a victim,
yeah.
and it wasn't true.
Okay,
And so
okay.
that was my saving grace. Just truth
All
was
right.
my saving grace.
What was the lesson learned from that type of person and that scenario for young adult T?
To not take everything personal. That it didn't have nothing to do with me because I was who I was. I befriended her. I was
Right.
good to her.
Right.
And whatever caused her to not be good to me ain't have nothing to do with
That
me.
wasn't your business. Right.
That was the lesson.
Right. Very good. So now there's kind of like a track record of people betraying you to a certain extent, right? Like whether that's betraying you because of life choices, a lot of the times when we have loved ones who are dealing with substance abuse, it's like, that's not them. That's the disease of that addiction that they're dealing with, right? But it can put us in spaces of feeling betrayed or abandoned. And then you have a group of girls jumping on you, right? Now you got this high school friend. Are you still nice, T, after this? Or are you becoming more guarded?
I was much more guarded.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about my homegirl.
I was much more guarded. I was angry.
Yeah. It's building up.
It's building up because, like you said, and this is all young people.
Yeah.
We young and we don't know no better.
Right.
We're just doing our best with what we have.
That's right.
But it didn't feel like it at that time. It felt like, why is everybody like this?
Yeah, everybody crazy.
Everybody acting up.
So my question is in college, you weren't in as much of a stressful environment as you were as a teenage T, but as young adult T, where are you at with the pills? Where are you at with your pulling of your hair? How are you doing mentally and emotionally in this new environment? Nothing like the hood. rich folks that you ain't never been nothing around.
Yeah.
How are you on the inside? I'm concerned about your development at that time.
I was doing much better.
Okay.
I had momentarily stopped pulling my hair.
Okay.
I wasn't popping pills no more. That was like a quick phase.
Yeah.
But I was still very worried about my mom. So there was still a lot of back and forth there.
Yeah.
She ended up coming to live with me and my roommates
Oh, whoa.
when I was 20. So I got there when I was 21.
Yeah.
So I got there when I was 19. I became a residential advisor when I was 20. And then I moved out of the dorms and into an apartment with my girlfriends when I was 21.
Wow.
At that time, my mom got evicted from her place. And I had some good friends because,
real life.
honey, we in college.
Right.
And I said, look, my mom is going through some stuff and she needs somewhere to stay. And
Wow.
they said she could come stay
And
with me.
y'all had to been sneaking her up in there because I know she wasn't allowed to be up in there.
She wasn't supposed to be in there, but she wasn't really going anywhere either.
Right.
She was
staying put.
pretty much on the couch. You know.
So how did
with her
that pan
struggles.
out? My advocate for teenage and young adulty is you got out to a healthier place, and then not to say that we don't naturally have, allegiance to our mothers, even in the worst situation, but like, how did that pan out? You bring your mom out there with all those issues, and you trying to survive and learn and change your environment.
Like we made it through.
Oh Lord.
By the grace of God, we
Yeah,
made it through.
yeah.
But that part was a struggle too.
Yeah.
But I was having fun.
Yeah.
I was making good money.
Yeah. Now you're working?
I was working by that time.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I moved out of the dorms, I started working. I had like 3 jobs.
Okay,
My
now.
entire college career.
Yes, indeed.
But my main job was at Nordstrom.
Okay.
So I worked for
So you
Nordstrom
had a
for
lot
5
of
years.
responsibilities, several jobs, going to school,
My
kind of
brother was
raising your
locked up
mom.
again.
Yeah.
So I was, being supportive of him, bringing my nieces to see him. So I would travel from San Jose, come to Sacramento,
Wow.
pick the girls up, take them to the visit,
Super
drop them off,
auntie.
come back home. Come
So
back
who's
to San
supporting
Jose.
you?
My dad was pretty supportive. He was
In what way?
if I needed money here and there,
Okay,
but
that's
I was
financial.
making good money, so I really.
What about mentally and emotionally? You are carrying a lot at 20 years old.
At the time, who ended up being my oldest son's father, he was my emotional support.
Okay, good. I'm wondering, like, who's pouring into you? Okay.
He was my
So you're in a relationship now.
Ish.
Okay. Well, it was college. We think we know what we're doing in college, huh?
Yeah.
All right. So sounds like a baby chose to come to you at this time. You said your
Around that
oldest.
time. No, so Dalen didn't come until 2016.
Okay.
But that is who I had 2 miscarriages with previous.
Okay. So I'm going to fast forward for a minute and then we're going to pick up because the way I know you is the beautiful safe spaces for healing and human growth and development that you provide for Black women in the community, specifically rooted in those who have dealt with the trauma of institutional harm as a result of losing their children and what most people call angel babies, right? Because there may be something physically that happened with them. First of all, thank you for doing that work. You know what I'm saying? Because we're starting to see the trending topic that Black women in the medical field and world are not being heard. Their pain is not being recognized, let alone given the support necessary. And you have figured out how to do this. So the reason why I wanted to take a pause and honor you in this moment is because Spirit is letting me know the experiences that you just referred to of 2 miscarriages may have something to do with that. So how old are you when you have these miscarriages? You're in college still? Where are we at? Fast forward to that.
So the first one, it was when was that? March, I want to say. It might have
Okay.
been around March
Okay.
of my senior year.
Oh gosh. So you're at the end of that particular journey.
And I went to the hospital for like completely different reasons.
Right.
I was having like night terrors or something. I was having weird dreams. And I
That's stress
also
inside of you.
had like random knee pain.
So you were not going there thinking that you're going to find out about any kind of pregnancy. And
Not
what
at all.
happened?
And that's exactly what I found out. She gave me a pregnancy test and I laughed. I'm just like, oh, I'm definitely not pregnant.
Because, of course, having sex, it's impossible for me to be having that, right?
Definitely not pregnant. And it didn't make sense because I'm coming in for like two very unrelated.
Yeah, right. Them old folks be telling on them. It's a storm a coming. It's a baby about to be born. I got the pain in my knee, right? So you find out you're pregnant or you find out you're miscarrying?
No, I found out I was pregnant in that appointment, and I just started bawling, crying.
Now, are you in a stable relationship with the individual that you're pregnant by?
No, we're in a terrible, by this time, like, he become abusive.
In what way?
In every way.
Okay.
Mentally, physically.
See, I got to slow down with y'all because y'all will fast forward past it.
Because it be so much.
Yeah.
It's so much going on.
Much. Like you said in the beginning of this interview, it's so much going on. So now you're in an abusive relationship. You find out you're pregnant. How do you get to a miscarriage?
So let me just say that it took a lot to come to grips with the fact that I was about to have not only a baby, but this man's baby.
Your abuser's baby.
Correct. So it took a lot of emotional, mental, spiritual preparation.
Sheesh.
And a few weeks later, because I don't remember exactly how far along I was when she told me I was pregnant, but by the time I was 11 weeks, I want to say I started bleeding, started spotting, and went back in and they told me I was miscarrying. So it was very hard to deal with after I done went through all of
psych
this
yourself up to tell him.
It was mad.
Did you have any support? Did anybody know?
I had two friends who knew.
Okay, so they were able to talk to you.
Two friends who knew. But because of that traumatic processing and all that, then I guess there's like a trauma bond that has occurred.
I guess there is, yes. Now, had you told him and then miscarried?
Oh, yeah, he knew. Mm-hmm.
All right.
He knew. And, we both sat in the car and cried when I found out that I was miscarrying.
That was your bond. That was your trauma bond.
And then from there, it's like, now we want a baby.
Oh, yeah. That happens a lot. Even if you're with an unhealthy person in a total unhealthy relationship, this we got to make sure this baby comes back in and that'll heal us and fix us. And so now you're trying to make it all right. No, you need to go to therapy and figure out why you whopping on me, right? But I digress. I know some sisters that have been in that experience, and it's once the trauma bond is there, it's so difficult. You don't even know how you got to that depth of the trauma bond, let alone how to pick the lock on it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you guys trying now?
Not necessarily trying, but not being protective.
Right. If it happens, it was meant to be.
And then it happened.
And then you miscarried again.
And then, so that one, that pregnancy, I went to 5 months. And at the 20-week appointment, when, they do the full body scan of the baby and everything, the tech who was doing my ultrasound, he just wasn't saying anything. And usually, if you've ever been in one of those, they're like, okay, this is the leg, this is the da-da-da-da-da.
They're identifying.
Mm-hmm. But they weren't saying anything. And so they got up, left out the room, came back in with 5 people, 3 of which were doctors, who had to look at the screen to verify that there was no fluid around my baby. And apparently my amniotic fluid had drained, and I didn't realize that was what was happening. And the cause was some type of infection. Mm-hmm. And because they didn't know how long this had happened or this had been happening, they were afraid that the infection would kill me.
Right.
And so they told me I had to deliver the baby right away.
Were you by yourself?
I would die. I was with Donnell.
Okay.
With my partner at the time. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they had to induce my labor.
What's your state of mind and heart at this time?
Oh, I can't even tell you. I was so out of it. They told me there's no way to save the baby. Like, you can't refuse this or else you will die.
And outside of that very clinical explanation, is there anyone in this facility, in this institution, regarding your mind or your heart? Or is it just all robotic? It's time for you to give birth to this baby. Any
That's it.
honor
No.
for your heart?
No, none. Not even afterward, which is how we came to Be Love Holistic,
That's right.
because there was none.
And what about your partner at the time? Despite him being, an abuser in your life, was there any compassion or patience there?
I mean, he was hurting too.
So he couldn't necessarily be as present as you needed as a person who's about to.
He was trying. I think he was trying,
but
but
he could.
There was already dysfunction in our
relationship, right?
I mean, we argued all the time.
Yeah. So at any moment, you in the hospital going through this, when you're in an abusive relationship, you know that even in the worst situation, that fool can still pop off and something can go even worse.
And it just his trying to be there for me didn't really feel that great.
Because behind the scenes, there's so much other toxicity
Exactly.
there. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what is, I'm willing to go as far as you're comfortable, but for those who want to support women who are in situations like this, when you're in an institution, you're going through this medical trauma, you're going through having to accept the fact that your life is at risk, but you're also a living being that you have carried for 5 months, does not get the opportunity to cross over into this realm and experience the breath of life. How old are you at this point in time?
24.
You're a 24-year-old young woman. I just want to give you a moment to speak to that institution at that moment. What did you need right then? What did you need in that moment? Outside of their emergency response to you quickly delivering, what did you need in that moment?
I needed a woman, preferably a Black woman, at my bedside. Holding my hand, rubbing my head, rubbing me down with a warm towel, or just somebody to care for my being in that moment.
In every sense of the way, you deserved it.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening? That's not what you needed, but when it ended up happening, how long does a procedure like this happen for you? How long did it take? What happened after?
So I couldn't tell you hours and all that, but I do know they induced my labor. I ended up delivering my son. I had to actually go back and look for my medical records to refresh my memory. And even in some instances, I still don't remember, but it's on paper. What happened. They said they sent us a social worker to speak to me. I don't really remember that. But I know I was released the next morning.
The next morning?
The next morning. They didn't give me any paperwork, like for a support group or a resource or nothing. They just...
On your way.
They didn't tell me what to expect. Like when I started lactating, I didn't realize I was about to start lactating.
Your body's preparing.
Yeah. So it just all was very sudden to me.
24 years old. So what happens to young adult T who now gets led on their way the next day, lactating without your baby and going home to an abusive relationship? What happens to you mentally and emotionally and physically?
I was toe up from the flow up. I laid in bed. He was processing in his own way, which looked like getting high, drinking, going to the studio with the homies. That's what that looked like. So I was by myself, and my dad called, to check on me several times a day. And every time he called, I was by myself.
Yes.
So he was like, I'm coming to get you.
That's right.
So he came and got me, and he literally just took care of me for the next 5 days.
Wow.
And that was where my healing was able to happen. Not to say that I was healed, but that was where the care came from.
Yes.
The care for me to be able to heal.
Yeah.
Because he waited on me hand and foot for 5 days. But after that, I went right back to work. I went right back to school. 5 days later.
5 days later, after you've been through a lot already, but that sounds like probably one of the biggest life-changing experiences. I don't want to speak for you, but yeah.
Definitely.
So knowing that you had a past experience when under stress, popping pills, self-harm with your hair pulling, do you return to any of those things? What happens now that you have this experience? And shout out to, even though Dad wasn't able to be there consistently through your life, clearly that man, that human being, when there's a certain point, he steps up to the plate, and he was able to tap into his divine masculine and access some of his divine feminine energy to at least give you that 5 days, because it doesn't sound like you would get anything from anywhere if he didn't show up. But you're back to work and you're back to school.
Yes. And I want to acknowledge my dad was consistently in my life. He was
Okay.
always there.
Okay.
It was just the ways in which he was able to show up because of the relationship between he and my mother.
Okay, thank you for that correction.
Yes, because
he was
Pops
there.
was always there.
Yeah.
Shout out to Pops.
Yeah, shout out
Pop
to
Dukes.
Shout out to fathers who step up in the periods of their daughter's life when we need you to be the masculine protector, but also the ability to dip into that divine feminine energy, because we all have both, to know and to be soft and loving and kind and be that supplemental hand by the side of your bed in that moment. What's your pop's names?
Sam Hairston.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for taking care of your daughter, my friend.
If anybody knows me, they know my dad.
Yeah, my dad.
'Cause He was always around.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. So you go back to school, go back to work. Do you return to any habits? How are you processing, and what do you become?
I definitely switched from blacks to cigarettes.
Oh, you just all out there. now.
Blacks to cigarettes.
Right.
I don't think I started pulling my hair just yet.
But it's it's coming.
It came back.
Okay.
I started really trying to keep myself busy.
No idle
doing
time.
too much.
Yeah.
So
And what
that
kind of things was you getting into?
I started partying again.
Wilding a little bit.
Yeah.
How did that affect school?
Oh no, I've always been a
You just a good
dope-ass
student. Right,
because
right.
I love learning.
Right. But in that, you're partying as a reaction to self.
Yeah,
Distract.
I needed
Yeah.
to release and
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, started partying, started smoking a lot. Still dealing with my baby daddy,
Right.
which was
and the abuse is still happening?
and the abuse is still happening.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually moved into a new apartment together, and the abuse got worse.
That trauma
after that.
bond.
Yeah. But I'm still, I'm looking like everything is all good.
Let me stop right there. I want you to look into that camera, and I want you to talk to every young woman out there, right, who looks good, hair did, right, edges laid, nails done, if not that, outfit fitted, right, presenting, whatever that looks like, presenting well to the world, and deep down inside, they're being beat on, they've just miscarried a child. I want you to talk to them right now about how important it is to not be fronting on the outside when the inside is a total opposite. What does that young T need to hear right now?
Don't fake the funk. If it's funky, say that it's funky. Acknowledge that it's funky. It's only until you acknowledge what's going on within you that you could start making the changes, and that other people are able to help you do whatever it is that you need to do.
Yes.
Whether that's offer support, whether that's, offering resources.
Yes.
But no one can help you until you speak your needs. When you acknowledge and stop faking the funk that you need something or that you desire something, then it will come to you. but you have to be honest with yourself and truthful with yourself to know what it is that you need. And you may not know what you need right away, but you just know that you need something, and you have to speak that to the right people, because everybody is not going to be equipped, prepared, willing to help or lend a helping hand. But be truthful with yourself and be straightforward about your needs, because when you are, that's when you are ready to receive.
I just needed to make sure that you speak to your younger self and speak to the other people that this information is intended for, you know. And it makes me emotional because we've had what would be considered pre-production conversations and talked about this in a condensed manner. But my respect for you has increased so much because it makes sense now why you are led to do the work that you're doing. You are serving the healing of yourself through the continuum and creating new spaces for other people. So let's figure out the part of the story on how do you get out of this abusive relationship and how do you get to this healing journey that you're in and sharing with other women now. Do you stay with this person for a long time? Was there any more miscarriages or was that the final on that?
So I did stay with him.
For how long?
Until 2016.
So this is how many years altogether that you stayed in this abusive relationship?
2006 to about 10 years.
10 years. Okay. And what happens? Because last time it was them girls that jumped on you. You was like, I'm done. I'm moving to San Diego, and you was out. Was it a situation like that again? How do you finally get out of this relationship?
This time it was just time.
I'm tired.
It was just time.
I was tired.
By that time, so we ended up having Dalen.
Okay.
Dalen
And
is
that's
my
your
oldest son.
Okay.
My rainbow baby.
Oh.
And mad respect for his father because he is a good person.
Okay.
This is young people stuff. This is,
Trauma,
just not knowing
kind of
trauma,
drama.
all the things.
Yeah.
And he's a great dad.
Okay.
Great co-parent, the whole nine.
Y'all grown up a lot.
We
since
grown
then.
up.
Yeah.
We grown.
Right.
And we are Team Dalen.
That's right.
So that makes everything
I love
easier.
it.
But
getting out of that abusive relationship, because that's not easy to do. And I just need you to give me a few minutes of how you went about doing that. Because, most people think about Tina Turner and what's love got to do with it? And she kicked this butt and ran. And it ain't that for everybody.
No, it was just time. So eventually he stopped being abusive.
Okay.
I'd say by about 2014, 15.
Why? Why does a person
I think
stop?
because we moved. So I was in Mississippi and he was in Oklahoma.
So he didn't have access to you like that.
Yeah, he
okay.
couldn't.
So it was more because of proximity. I want to be clear about this on why he wasn't.
Kind of. Yeah, I think so. Because we were staying together in Mississippi. This is where I was getting my master's, my first master's.
At where?
University of Mississippi.
I mean, come on now. All right.
And we had a big fight. And the next day he left. He took all his stuff and he left.
Okay.
And then I ended up moving to Missouri. We rekindled.
Okay.
And at this point, like, I just want to have a baby. I'm like 29.
Yeah.
I feel like my clock is ticking
Right.
and all this stuff. And, he was wanting the same thing.
Yeah.
And we never stopped really wanting
Yeah.
a baby
Yeah.
after the 2 miscarriages. And so I ended up getting pregnant with Dalen. We moved back to California when Dalen was 4 months old. Okay. We were living with my parents, and I just didn't want to be with him.
Yeah.
Like, this is not the person that I want to be with.
Relationship expired. Yeah.
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 And
But this baby was to come through you two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And beautifully so. It
Yeah.
all happened beautifully, but I just sat him down at the kitchen table at my daddy's house one day, and I said, I love you, but we cannot do this anymore.
Was there agreement? Was there pushback?
He didn't want it.
Right.
He didn't want that at all.
But also you with your support and your family too now. You ain't by yourself, right?
Yeah.
But you decided to choose you.
I decided to choose me and Dalen. because Dalen deserves to see his mom happy and healthy and, you know, not in that kind of relationship.
And it sounds like by you making that decision, you are actually better partners as co-parents. And that was more of the purpose and destiny. It wasn't a long-term partnership. The history of trauma and abuse was not the foundation that you needed. Because some people, especially in the Black community, right? Fight it through, stick it through. There's some things in some situations where you can't even get to your healing if you stay tethered to a person who has been your abuser. Even if they stopped after a while, there was a journey that you need to go on. And so 30, going on 30, you have a baby, you're in a healthier relationship with the partner that you created this child with. Where are you in your educational journey at this point?
So I had finished all my coursework for my PhD.
Okay, I'm clapping for teenage T and young adult T and grown woman T. Hey, girl.
I was getting it together.
Yes.
So I finished my coursework and came home, and then I started doing my research here.
Yeah. And what, I don't know if I asked you specifically, what was your study?
So at first, my research was surrounding Black male incarceration.
Brother.
Yes.
Brother work. Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
But being in those spaces, learning about that, I realized that Black women were at the center of everything. We were in the rooms all the time, filling the rooms, talking about reform, talking about how we're going to support our brothers when they get home, talking about, you know, just all the things that the collateral consequences of mass incarceration.
Yes.
And so that's what led me, to really want to explore more about how are Black women taking care of themselves,
Especially after everything you went through, right?
So then I started thinking about self-care, and so there again, just a lot of things transpired.
Divine alignment
to just align with where I am now, what I'm doing now with Black women.
Okay, so let's be specific, because now we've learned about teenage T, young adult T, grown woman T, navigating through trauma that showed up in a variety of ways, right? Not just what, you know, some people can say, I had this one experience. I had a parent who is having substance. You've had multiple experience. Like, you check all of those boxes, and not to like victimize you, because you have definitely rose above it. But, you know, when people see the sad Black movie, right? And it's like all these, there's a lot of boxes that and you have stayed consistently a student, finished your trajectory on your higher education plan. And now you are Dr.Teah, sister from the hood.
Yes, ma'am.
Who has pushed through all of this adversity. And now you're doing what? Who do you serve? Who's the particular population that you serve?
Specifically, I serve Black women. Because I didn't realize that I was checking all these boxes. You know, it took me being in master's programs, my PhD program, reading all of these different texts, understanding socioeconomic status, understanding poverty, understanding substance abuse, understanding trauma. I didn't know none of that. Like, I lived it. I was living it. I was experiencing it. And I didn't realize that I was an anomaly. I didn't realize that.
Tell that young sister who you was talking to earlier, what's an say it for me, because I just stuttered.
It's something that is not necessarily normal or
typical.
Typical, thank you.
Let's say it together, because I can never say that word.
Anomaly.
It's not a typical situation, but then it's typical for so many of us.
That part, that's the other part. Like, there's so many people like me. There's so many of us who survive and come out of situations and are able to thrive, right? There's so many brilliant people. Right. There's so many creatives that just don't have the time or the resources or the people, right, to help them hone in on their skills and their talents and their excellence.
And the thing is, it's like, if we're able to be these creatives and problem solvers with the trauma, what could we do if we actually got the healing? And that's what you do.
Yeah.
So tell people, Dr. Teah, my sister, my friend, how do people find you? how do people support you and the work that they do? Because you're active, you got a cohort coming up now. So tell us about like real time, where we at right now, and how people can support you.
That's a good question. So where I am now, I'm holding space for Black women.
And what's it called?
Be Love Holistic.
Say it again.
Be Love Holistic.
One more again.
Be Love
Holistic.
Holistic.
Be love. Let me say it to a rhythm, because you put it a beat to anybody, people remember. What is it? Be love holistic. Hey, be love holistic. I break it down now. I be love now. Holistic. Yeah, bro. Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. So Be Love Holistic. You create spaces for women to do what?
To receive support. I'm not going to say we get, because support looks different for everybody.
That's right.
It feels different for everybody.
That's right.
So I try to create spaces in which support is there.
Yes.
Resources are there.
Yes.
And if they are useful for you, wonderful.
Right.
Great.
Right.
If not, then how else can we serve you?
Right. Right.
But for the most part, I'm just looking at our holistic health, just our whole being.
Yes.
Because we're always going through so
Right.
much.
That's the thing. We're always going through so much.
We can't really just pick one thing
Yeah.
to address
Right.
because
It's a lot of boxes.
there's a lot of boxes to check.
All right. So this shows up in classes, cohorts. You do a lot of different little things, not little things, big things.
Do a lot of big things.
Yeah.
I host workshops. I hold monthly activities. I contract with different organizations who bring me in to either do talks or, host workshops for them. But I just try to introduce sisters to all kinds of different healing modalities.
Yeah.
Because one size does not fit all.
That's right.
What works for me may not necessarily work for you.
Right.
So
Different
I try
entry points.
Different entry points.
Yes.
And I try to use an African-centered holistic approach.
Yes.
So remembering Sankofa. Right. Remembering the things that
Go back and
we
fetch
used
it. Yes.
before the healthcare system
The
was
westernized
created.
health.
The westernized, colonized healthcare system was created. So using
Beautiful.
the earth and community to heal ourselves.
Nature, yes.
All of
Beautiful.
that, yeah.
Oh, and I have had the pleasure to witness this woman in action. I've had the pleasure to share spaces. She's hired me to come in and facilitate. But I had to pull this doctor sister to the side because often, like we said, full circle, when we're in situations of leadership, people wonder, well, how'd you get to this point? Well, why do you care about this so much? And in us having this opportunity to meet teenage T, to meet young adult T, that leads us to seeing that trauma, that drama, the suffering even, taking a progressive attitude towards transformation for first herself is what led her to be in a position of self-mastery, which is we're always evolving and that's never over, but being in a position of, like I say, that universal auntie energy to step in and be at the sides of those mind beds, heart beds, soul beds, to hold the hands and be exactly what you needed. And I honor you and I uplift you and I admire you and I will support you forevermore.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
At the end of every session, we do a reflection. We do because this is a refresh session, even though this is refreshing combos and we're doing the storytelling vibe. I want to know, how do you feel in this moment? And as a leader, being vulnerable and telling in the depths that you have, how do you feel in sharing that right now? What's your reflection on today's refreshing combos?
I feel like there's still so much to be told.
Yeah.
That's the thing, like being able to sit and talk about it. There's a lot that's been said, but there's we got stories.
Right. We can do volumes.
Right? We're going to have to come back to
Yeah.
time. Something that always troubles me when I do things like this is the way my loved ones feel about me sharing, because this is my truth. It's also a reality for them to have to swallow, like, you know, my mom and
Yeah.
and her abuse or her addictions, and you know, my son's father, who, you know, I love.
that's real.
I love him as a human being, but this is real talk. This is what happened.
Right.
You know, my oldest brother, who's been, you know, the one who inspired me to look at mass incarceration. He's always really proud of me, but even there's been situations where some of the family hasn't appreciated me
telling that part of the story.
Parts of the story.
Yeah.
And it's just like, look,
Yeah.
I honor and understand where you're coming from.
Right.
But our stories are intertwined.
Yes.
And this is my story too.
Absolutely.
And I get to tell it. And
Yeah.
so, you know, there's a little bit of
Can I offer you something for
Please.
that? As a person who is deeply rooted in community storytelling, but also as a person who understands the harm in not sharing our stories, that is actually where the death of our experience really, it gets chopped off. I think there's a difference if you're doing it to exploit someone, if you're doing it with the spirit of malice,
Right.
of isfat, of negativity, versus the spirit of healing.
yes.
And whether or not people in our life or in our experiences are ready to tell their story, the bravery in you sharing yours without trying to intentionally hurt them actually ushers in and invites them in to understand it's not as difficult. I might not have been the one to begin the storytelling, but number one, they're honoring me by telling the truth. And then number two, they're not trying to hurt me.
Yeah.
And then lastly, that might be an entry point for you two to continue on and get some healing in those areas where that doubt could fester. So my gift to you is when we're operating in truth, justice, and righteousness, we're always blessed and protected. And even those who might not be ready to operate in that way, we're modeling the example of what that looks like.
Yeah.
And I think they'll be okay.
Yeah. I know they will. I know they will.
All right. So in closing, I heard you, and I want to make sure to honor this. You're ready to start doing a deeper level of research.
Yeah.
What can community members, and say it directly to the camera real quick before we go, what would help you as a doctor to go to this next level, to begin to do deeper levels of research so you can sustain your family, yourself, but also there's a reason why Spirit is telling you to begin another level of research for your continued work. What can people do to support you in that?
Definitely just sharing, putting the word out, visiting us at different events. If you're familiar or know of any funding opportunities, research funding opportunities, I'm really interested in looking at Black women's maternal health, especially because we know how Black women are being impacted by the U.S. medical system. And
Where can they find you? Where would they go to give you that support?
you can find me at beloveholistic.com. On all social media platforms, it's beloveholistic. My email address, beloveholistic@gmail.com.
They can find you.
You can find me. I'm not hard to find.
That's right.
But
And if she's
yeah.
not there, you can find her in the streets because she's always facilitating beautiful experiences. Thank you so much for being here. I told you we were going to do this. I wanted to do this. For those of you who are on a trajectory of healing and also in a position of leadership, I want to remind you that Refreshing Convos is all about tempering that healthy balance of, yes, be a leader in whatever right you do, but also be honest about the real life experiences and examples that you have lived. Don't hide in them. There's healing in it for you, and there's healing in it for community members. I thank Dr. Teah for being here. And until next time, I will see you on Refreshing Convos. Peace.